Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Hunter Mulholland Show, where I'm going to talk Cardinals baseball. The St. Louis Cardinals finally got their first series win of the second half last night as they defeated the New York Yankees in their three-game set, winning two of the three games and finally getting over that hump. The Cardinals had not won a series in the second half after a first half that had people hopeful, and then towards the end of it started to stumble their way to the All-Star break before coming out of it a little bit flat and ultimately falling under 500 for the first time this season last week against the Chicago Cubs. Now, St. Louis has sold at the trade deadline. They traded away Dustin May, Jojo Romero, and Lars Nootbaar. Dustin and Jojo went over to the Brewers. Meanwhile, Lars Nootbaar is joining his old friend Nolan Arenado in Arizona. So what do the Cardinals kind of look like? Well, the return that they got back was fantastic. They had a fantastic return for both of those deals. They got 4 top 30 prospects in the organization. They got a guy in Alexander Frias who has been skyrocketing up boards. The same thing with Josiah Ragsdale, who was the second piece. He wasn't even the headlining piece. Both of those guys coming over from the Brewers, left-handed hitting outfielders, both of them in the Cardinals' top 10 in their organizational prospect rankings. That's a really good sign. Chaim Bloom had a fantastic trade deadline in my eyes. I believe that the Cardinals are going in the right direction. They're moving the right way after a couple of years of being stagnant, not necessarily blowing it all up, but not necessarily going for it all either. Just doing just enough to stay in that middle of the pack competitiveness. And now you started to see over the offseason, Chaim Bloom, he trades away Arenado, he trades away Gray, he trades away Contreras, he trades away Brendan Donovan, and now he gets his first deadline. He makes 2 moves of trading guys away. Obviously, he brings in Caleb Ferguson, kind of to backfill the Jojo Romero trade and reinstill some left-handed help into that bullpen. But the Cardinals are in a very, very solid spot right now at the minor league levels. If you look down at Springfield, Ty Pete and Tanner Franklin just got called up to Springfield. But if you look at the first 4 in their lineup, you have Ty Pete, you have Raynel Rodriguez, you have Jesus Baez, and you have now Josiah Ragsdale. That top 4 is a very, very possible top 4 for the Cardinals in the future, or at least major contributors to the Cardinals lineup and to their offense. And that's something that the Cardinals have not really had a ton of hope in the minor leagues. It was guys like Nolan Gorman and Dylan Carlson and up until this year, Jordan Walker, guys that were very highly touted but never truly broke through the ceiling. And those were the guys that you needed to break through the ceiling because outside of them, they weren't very deep in their minor league farm system. They weren't a great organization at developing guys. They had fallen behind the curve. And so now Chaim Bloom comes in and he readjusts some things down at the minor league levels, and he puts a lot of focus and effort into building a sustainable system that the Cardinals will be able to use to create competitive teams over a 15, 20-year span, the way that they did back in the early 2000s. They created this outstanding level of success year in and year out, pretty much from the second they made the playoffs in the early 2000s all the way through the retirement of Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols. The team was competitive. They were in the hunt every single year. They even won 2 World Series and went to 4. So the Cardinals are in a very, very good spot right now compared to where they were just 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you had a logjam of prospects that were getting backed up behind veteran players that John Mozeliak decided not to move on from, and he decided to not use those prospects to go and get pieces that he might need. And so he created this logjam of players, especially in the outfield, to where now you have to move on from that. The window has passed, and going into last year, I think that the Nolan Arenado window had passed for the Cardinals to win with him. And so to see and have a fresh outlook when you started this season, when you started the off season. When we came into this season, nobody believed that the Cardinals were going to be competitive this late in the year. Nobody believed that they would be this close to 500 this late in the year. A lot of guys, I myself included, had them in the 70-ish win total, maybe even less. So to see the Cardinals being competitive, working their way in to a spot where there was at times a question of whether or not the St. Louis Cardinals were going to buy at the trade deadline. Now, the plan in Chaim Bloom's eyes and in his head was always to not sacrifice the future for a short-term gain and for short-term aspirations. And so that was something that going into the deadline, no matter where the Cardinals were, you probably were still going to see some moves be made. But the Cardinals ultimately only make 2 of them. They hold on to Stanek, who's a rental player and totally, absolutely could have been traded ahead of Monday's deadline, but wasn't. He hung around. He's still on the roster. And so he's going to be somebody that you're not gaining any value from that signing other than he's an arm in your bullpen. Now, I don't know what the Cardinals would have got back. It certainly was not going to be the return that they got for Dustin May and Jojo Romero, or even the return that they got for Lars Nootbaar. But they would have been able to snag some sort of piece to add to their prospect rankings and to be able to continue to push forward to the future. The Cardinals are getting ready to line up against the Colorado Rockies this weekend for a 3-game homestand at Busch Stadium. And I believe that the Cardinals are in a good spot. They were struggling outside of the break, and I think a lot of that could be attributed to the fact that the Cardinals had no off days in the month of July except for the All-Star break. They had those days to rest and recover, and then they were back playing up until today, August 6th, to kind of just stay the course and try and keep their heads above water. And so now they get an off day today and are able to push through and go forward to hope, pray that they can find their way back into a wild card race, which they, in all reality, are not too terribly far out from. Now, there are still work to be done. There are things that the Cardinals have to do to make it a reasonable possibility that they are going to compete in the National League wild card, but they're not too far out. They are 4 games back. They need some help. They're behind the Marlins and the Padres outside of it. And then the Diamondbacks or Phillies are tied for that second wild card spot right now. So one of those teams will have to shuffle around a little bit. 4 games back with 2 months to play is doable. It's something that the Cardinals will be able to pursue, but it is not something that they should be leaning on and being the main goal of the season. The main goal of the season has and always was to continue to push forward and to continue to develop their guys at the major league level. And they've done that. You've seen a breakout from Jordan Walker. You've seen a breakout from JJ Weatherholt. These are things that the Cardinals are needed to happen to put themselves in a spot where by 2028, the Cardinals will be able to be competing for a World Series title. And I don't even know if 28 is the right year to say competing for a title, but they would be at the very early and infant stages of creating that title contender. And that's going to be the start of where you see them break through and get into the playoffs and get into a spot where this team could go and they can compete and they can go on a run. They might not be your number 1 contender, but they are a team that down the road with what's coming down up the minor league pipeline, what's already here that you ideally have in 3 years, the Cardinals are in a really good spot. They're in a really, really good spot as an organization now versus where they were just a year ago. The changes that have been made have allowed the Cardinals to develop guys and bring them up to their capabilities and also make them feel like they're being supported by the organization. And I believe that the Cardinals that can be attributed to Heimblum's work to rebuild the minor league system. Now, enough about the minor league guys and my thoughts on how this rebuilding season has been going, but let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about where the Cardinals have been in this last couple of weeks since the All-Star break. It has not looked great. The Cardinals have, like I said at the top of the show, just one series win, and it came this past one in the Bronx. It's the 2-1 victory over the New York Yankees. And they're still under 500. There's one game under 500 right now. They're able to push forward and continue to go through. And if they can get a sweep of the Rockies, then they're going to be 2 games up. And that's going to help them kind of find their footing in this race before the season goes down the road. You have guys coming through the system that are still there that are kind of going to get a chance in September. And like guys like Quinn Matthews are going to get more chances this season. He's that one appearance against the Blue Jays was not the only one. So you got to try and stay afloat. And the offense has been a big part of that. They have not performed the way that they did at the beginning of the season. Has not been the same result the last 2 months for St. Louis. Their offense is down. Jordan Walker has not hit a home run since the All-Star break, since he won the home run derby, which you can say all the different things about all the home run derby break swings. I think it's just a slump. He's out right now. He jammed his knee on Monday, and he missed the last 2 games in New York. Hopefully this off day gets him back onto the field tomorrow night against the Rockies. He's a guy that you need to get going. He needs to kind of break through this slump and get that power surge back up. Alec Burleson had a huge night over in the Bronx, but other than that, the Cardinals have not had a fantastic offensive showing over the last 2 months, besides Monday night. Monday night was a fantastic showing. He had 5 home runs, 3 of them from Burleson, which don't even get me started on the questioning of manager Oliver Marmol on why he was benched the next day. I get the splits thing, but the dude just went 3 for 5 with 3 2-run jacks. He should probably be in the lineup, especially when you're scratching Jordan Walker due to an injury. You shuffle the lineup around. You get Alec Burleson in there. I don't care about the matchups at that point. You ride the hot hand at the plate, and Alec Burleson definitely earned that opportunity. You use him late, and he gets intentionally walked, and he doesn't even see a pitch, essentially, at that point. So I would like to have seen Burleson in that lineup. I get the splits. I also think that you probably ride him, especially with how the offense has been. The guy just hit 3 pumps. Send him back out there the next day. But I don't get paid to make the calls. I sit here and talk about it. So, but if the offense can get moving against a Rockies pitching staff that is generally not fantastic, they do not do anything. They're better than years past, but they are not a pitching staff to be feared. I believe that the Cardinals can kind of get back onto their horse and find a way to build upon this. And I'm looking at it right now. The Rockies pitching staff as a whole has the worst ERA in all of baseball. So they are, by giving up runs, the worst pitching staff in baseball. And so you've got to find a way to break through against that. That's going to be something that the offense is licking their chops to go and get after, especially after a month and 2 months, really, of subpar offensive capabilities from this team. You got to be looking forward to going and putting a hurting on the Rockies and get yourself back into a conversation of, hey, maybe they can go get a 3rd wild card. Maybe they can do it. But right now, that's where the team stands. The team has to come out and they have to find a way to hit the baseball this weekend. They have to. There can no longer be, a 2 runs given up and a wasted start, especially like Hunter Dobbins pitched fantastic on Tuesday. Gave up 2 solo home runs. Okay, who cares? You've got to find a way to score runs. You can't go up there and your pitcher gives you a quality start and you put up a 0. You get shut out on a night after you hit 5 home runs and scored 13. You get shut out the next day. Got to find a way. You've got the Yankees on the ropes. You got to find a way to score. And so that's going to be something with the Rockies that the offense has to be real hopeful for and be really, really aggressive against them to try and force their hand into scoring those runs and giving their pitchers some cushion. Because the pitching staff, there are too many times this season where Palante, McGreevy, Dobbins most recently, Dustin May when he was around, too many times where their games that the starting pitcher does his job, gives up 2 or less runs over the course of 6 innings, and then the bullpen comes in and explodes, and the offense does nothing to help. And there are too many of that, and so you have to find a way, if you're the Cardinals offense, to give your pitcher some cushion. Give your bullpen that relaxation and that ability to be aggressive, because there are a lot of times where the bullpen has to be, they're trying to be too fine. They're pitching with a 1-run deficit and they're trying not to make it more because the offense is struggling, and they try to be too fine and they leave a pitch over the heart of the plate, and all of a sudden it's a 5-run ball game. That's the difference between the Cardinals winning and the Cardinals losing, and it stems from the offense, because the offense is going to give the pitchers a little bit more comfort in what they're able to do. And don't get me wrong, Monday night, Cardinals had a 6-run lead, and the bullpen still blew it to a 7-6 deficit before the Cardinals answered back with 7 runs of their own. Don't get me wrong, but the offense was clicking that day. At both sides, the offense was clicking. And so you got to see which way the Cardinals are going to go. You got to find a way, if you're the Cardinals offense, to score, because when you score, you can stay hot. Hitting's contagious. Hitting's contagious. If your team's hitting, there's a good vibe, there's a good feeling, and that seeps into everybody else in the dugout. Everybody on the pitching staff, gives them the confidence to go out and do their job and hold down that lead. So, Cardinals take on the Rockies, and let's talk a little bit about the probable pitchers before we get out of here. The Cardinals are going to send hold on. They sent Palante last night, so it should be Kyle Leahy, if I remember correctly. Kyle Leahy is going to take the ball on Friday night against Ryan Feltner. Kyle Freeland and Matthew Liberatore will be your Saturday night matchup for the Cardinals and the Rockies. And then Michael Lorenzen and Michael McGreevy will get the ball on the Sunday matinee and series finale for the Cardinals and the Rockies, before on Monday next week, the Philadelphia Phillies and Bryce Harper come to town to take on the Cardinals. That's going to be an important series. The Braves currently lead the National League East, which puts the Phillies, I believe they are, yes, they are in third wild card, tied for second with the Diamondbacks, 4 games ahead of St. Louis. So you claw yourself back into the heat of it there against the Rockies, and then you got a team that you got to beat. It's an important series in terms of standings, a team that just went out and added. The Phillies are in. The Phillies are buying in to go on a run and try and make something happen and make some noise in the playoffs. They're coming to town next week. Important series coming up, but first you got to take care of business against the Colorado Rockies. Thank you guys for listening. Go ahead and like and subscribe here. Go give me a follow on X. I'll link that in the description below as well. Thank you for joining me on the Hunter Mulholland Show. We'll be back at you tomorrow talking more Cardinals baseball.